We're all about home-prepared diets here at V&G. Why? Because fresh is better. And this is why we recently introduced our Complete Me Meal Completer supplements for dogs and cats. We want to give pet parents, such as yourselves, peace of mind, knowing that the delicious home-prepared meals you're making are nutritious and complete and balanced. Today on V&G, we're going to start with some of the basics, the pros and cons, or getting into the festive season vibe, the nice or naughty lists of home-prepared diets for your four-legged furry companions. Let's start with the pros. If you haven't tried feeding your pet some of your home-cooked tidbits, firstly, great job, super self-restraint. Can't say I've had success in that department. Not surprising when you have to deal with puppy dog eyes like these. But if you have given them at least something small, no judgment, you won't be surprised to hear that pets find home-prepared meals very, very palatable, more so than dry diets. So, palatability is a huge pro when deciding whether or not to switch to home cooking, and this can make a huge difference to dogs and cats with more selective appetites. Feeding a home-prepared diet also allows you to have complete control over what goes into your pet's diet. You can choose which proteins you're comfortable with. You might prefer certain proteins for ethical reasons, for example. You can also include organic fruits and vegetables, or choose imperfect produce to try and increase the sustainability of your pet's diet and minimize food waste. You can also be completely confident in terms of the quality of the diet, because you've made it. Another pro for home-prepared diets is that fresh fruit and vegetables are a rich source of compounds called phytonutrients. Phytonutrients are chemical compounds made from plants, like carotenoids and flavonoids. For example, you probably know of beta-carotene found in orange and red fruits and vegetables, like carrot or pumpkin. Diets rich in phytonutrients from whole foods are believed to confer long-term health benefits, and commercial diets are often lacking in these ingredients. Okay, so last but not least, there is a somewhat contentious issue of processing, or more specifically, the degree of processing, and the effects of such techniques on the inclusion of potentially harmful compounds in the finished product. Home-prepared diets are free of compounds like acrylamide, which is considered likely to be carcinogenic in humans. This cannot be said of many dry diets currently available due to high temperature cooking processes. Okay, so maybe by now I've convinced you that feeding a homemade diet is a good idea. Great! But on that note, there are some potential cons to discuss. The first one is cost. So, how expensive are we talking? Cutting back on maybe one takeaway coffee per week? Perhaps two? Well, this is quite variable depending on the ingredients that you incorporate into the meals you're preparing, with protein sources typically affecting the price the most. On average, we're probably looking at between $6 to $12 per kilogram of diet. But when you compare this to feeding premium canned diets, the price is often comparable or even cheaper. Yes, cheaper. If you need to see more figures to believe this, head over to our blog for some practical examples and comparisons to feeding some of our free recipes available on our website in conjunction with our Complete Me products. Home-prepared diets, in comparison to feeding ready-made commercial diets, can also be somewhat time-consuming, depending on what you decide to prepare, of course. Using a meal completer supplement rather than multiple human supplements can increase convenience and decrease prep time. In some locations, it's also much easier to include a meal completer compared with sourcing specific types or offal. Another potential con for home-prepared diets is that the diet needs to be well formulated to ensure that it is appropriate and complete and balanced. If it's not, it can be harmfully deficient in essential nutrients. Don't get me wrong, like I mentioned earlier, using whole food ingredients can provide a lot of nutritious compounds. But often, using these alone is not enough to meet the AAFCO minimum requirements for the life stage of your pet, whether that's growth and reproduction or adult maintenance. Adding a significant amount of offal can help, but at the same time can cause problems like changes in stool consistency or even affect palatability for some animals. If an unbalanced homemade diet results in nutrient deficiencies, these deficiencies can manifest in the form of various different clinical signs. However, these typically only become noticeable when the disease resulting from such deficiencies is very advanced or severe. As you can imagine, it's difficult to appreciate such problems earlier in the disease course, which is why such feeding practices are generally considered fine, because the consequences are very delayed. So, these cons are not to put you off preparing homemade diets for your pets. Rather, I mention them to stress the importance of doing home-prepared diets properly to ensure that your pet is getting a complete and balanced meal that meets all their needs. And with all the delicious recipes available on our website, it might bring about a bit of food envy on your part. I'm sorry about that. We've also got you covered with some more budget-friendly recipe options and even ones that are more quick and easy to prepare. If you haven't popped by our new website yet and had a look at our Complete Me products and complementary recipes, please head over now and have a browse. If you have any questions, drop us a message via our Contact Us page or put it in an email and we'll get back to you ASAP. Thanks for watching. Until next time, and happy cooking.